This happened at school when I was 4 or 5. I remember that I spent the day at the zoo with the rest of the class and we were going back to school on the bus. So the bus finally stopped 3 or 4 meters away from the school doors and everyone got off the bus to join the class. It turns out that I was the last one leaving. Even the teachers had left. So I was about to enter the school's playground when a woman got out of her car and called me right in front of the open door. "Hi, sweet boy, do you want to go to the zoo with me?" At this moment I had a weird feeling. I knew something bad was happening. How could this woman know I went to the zoo? And why would she ask me to go with her? I couldn't think. I was like paralyzed and she would just get closer and closer. She was about 2 meters from me and she walked to me with I felt a strong grip on my wrist and got heavily pulled into the school's ground. I looked up and saw my teacher, even more scared than me. It looked like she was going to cry. Anyway, she just ran into the school as fast as she knew I could run without looking back. Today, I still don't know what this weird woman wanted and if she really followed me since the zoo. But whatever, to this creepy woman, let's not meet again. I was 14 when this happened. I had a pretty solid week or night routine. I would go to practice, get back around 8:30, and then ride my longboard about a mile down the road to a local Wagglings. I did this so I would have snacks for my late night of Xbox ahead of me. One night I got home a little late, so I left at 9. I'd been in my new sketchy neighbourhood for about a year. I usually ride on the road, but my gut told me to stay on the sidewalk. I hadn't even made it to the main road yet, and I heard a car behind me. It slowed to pace me. I had a feeling shit was about to go down, so I tested the guy. I stopped did an 880, extremely casually, gave my board a push, and looked over my shoulder. He's reversing. Damn! I dip fast, picking up my board and going full sprint. I get about a block away and jump in bushes next to my house. I waited there for no more than 30 seconds before I heard a car slowly rolling towards me. They pass and turn right. I get out of the bushes and I made a stupid move. I got to double check if they're gone. I dart across the street and peek around the corner and see their brake lights. Then I see the white reverse lights come on a second later. You gotta be goddamn kidding me! I run back around the corner at Godspeed, realising my only chance is to get off that main road. There's too much traffic there for this guy to safely do anything. I full sprinted. I figured if I got to top speed he would have to run me over to catch me. He can't stop his car, get out and jump me. If I'm running at top speed, I made it there, losing him at some point along the way. I don't know when I never looked back. The next day I turned on the news and it turns out there had been multiple attempted kidnappings in that area that month. And the driver was in the SUV. I was born and raised as a child in North Carolina. I later moved to Australia with my mother, having lost her father in a homicide. The next few years of my life in Australia were difficult. Meeting and making friends was difficult in the early stages, particularly since I got quite nerdy and did not speak much English, something most Australian kids at the time did not relate to well. One of my scariest moments from when I was age 12 at the time, it did not even occur to me just how close I came to potentially losing my life. My mother and I were on a road trip heading south to Melbourne to stay on the southern coast. We had stopped one evening at a small, well-kept caravan park. The caravan park was nice, beautiful, neat grass, nice flowers blooming, and a small creek which ran along the edge of the premises. It reminded me of home. I spent some time walking around on my own, as my mother was taking a nap. I just discovered a game and pool room. I went inside and spent probably a few hours playing pool by myself. and generally just mucking around when a young boy came in. I was very shy and so was he, but we eventually talked for a little while and became friendly. I do not remember playing any games with him, but I do recall him being very nervous. He kept asking me if I wanted to go back to his caravan and his parents were making dinner soon. At first I was not interested and I said no, but I spent more time doing things and talking as it got later. He became more pushy and asked if I liked cake and lollies. Of course, I said. I followed him to his caravan, which was much older than ours, and quite old. He asked me to wait outside while he talked to his parents. I waited patiently for a few minutes until the door opened, and a large old man with glasses and no shirt opened the door and asked if I would like to come inside for cake. I was scared, but remember feeling like I had to, like it would be rude of me to leave. As I was walking in the door, I heard a man behind me shout, "Hey, what's going on here?" I was quickly grabbed by my collar of my shirt. I am pretty sure it was like a dress actually, and pulled inside. The man then quickly tried to lock the door behind me. However, the stranger was too quick and burst in the door. He took my hand and pulled me outside. We ran away. The man asked me which caravan I was in and took me straight there. We went inside and my mum yelled at me asking why he was here. I was hiding in the corner crying while he explained what happened. We packed up that night and left immediately. I was heavily on anxiety medications after what happened and we never spoke about it alone again. My mother claimed it was something I should talk to with my therapist about. Every time we spoke about it, my mother would not leave the room. It scared the hell out of her, and I did not understand why. I guess at that age it's difficult for the brain to comprehend the reality of a situation. Looking back on it now, it utterly scares me to the point of losing sleep. In 2007, I was 8 years old, and my family decided to go to Egypt for a yearly holiday, lasting 2 weeks. My family is small, only consisting of myself, my mum, and my dad. My family were drawn to this beautiful history on the Red Sea surrounding Egypt, because both of my parents loved diving on their holidays. The first day was pretty normal from my recollection of my parents. We all went upstairs to take a nap. During the evening, we went to the hotel restaurant, located inside the hotel complex. Here we met a boy my age and his single mother. We had spent here a week and got on really well with this boy, and I spent most of my evening chatting with him and praying close by to where our parents were. It came time to leave, and I remember hearing my parents talking about how concerned they were for the lady and her son, but they wouldn't tell me at the time. About a week and a half passed and I made more friends at this hotel. I was a very sociable child and I would remember myself had a group of kids wanting to go for a swim at the bigger pool. We asked our parents and they all said yes, and a few adults joined us by the pool on the opposite side of the hotel. My parents didn't come as there was kids club people watching all over us, as well as the other adults. My parents weren't there as they would be gone on a diving trip for a couple of hours after I'd asked them to go to this pool. They were fine with me being there as there was trusted adult supervision. My parents were not in any way bad for this, as in that kids club they would take you all over the hotel and on the beach during the daytime, and this wasn't very different. I remember needing the toilet and I was not going to wee in the pool, so I got up out the steps and for some reason looked to my right and saw a greasy old grey man just standing there smirking with a grin on his face, which I recognise to this day as being an expression holding his phone up right at me, and I looked at him and noticed he was in a security guard uniform standing by the gates to the other half of the hotel. The toilets were just inside those gates. I remember trying to walk past and him telling me to smile, give me a smile, and I ran back to the adults but didn't tell them. Later that evening, at dinner, my parents could tell I was being off and asked me to tell them what was wrong, believing I had had a falling out with one of the kids. When I told them about what the security guard had done, my dad got straight up from that table, nearly knocking off food everywhere, and stormed straight to the manager's office, and I was left with my mum. Around an hour later, he came back and said how the manager would pull the security guard into the office the next morning when his shift started, and they would go through his phone. The manager did just that. The security guard was taken in the next morning, and there was so many pictures taken of me from not just the day I caught him, but from the day I got here, multiple pictures a day. From when I woke up to have a swim to lunch, to when I was at dinner with my family, most of which I was soaking wet from the pool and in a bathing suit. Some of these images had been sent to men on his phone text messages. The manager promptly fired him and tried his best to apologise by giving us a fruit basket. Yeah. Oh, and remember that woman and her son I heard my parents talking about? Well, she had been having similar issues, but instead of pictures, she had been getting calls on her hotel room phone from a man saying how hot she was, and he knew what room she was in, and he was going to rape her. That's why my parents and I spent every day and evening with her and her son until they got left for the airport. That man was arrested a couple of days after she reported it in the hotel, and he tried to attack her when he saw her. So any threats my parents thought was in that hotel was now gone. On the same holiday, my family went to this little knick-knack shop just outside the hotel for souvenirs. The shop owner there tried to tickle me and put me in his lap. Even my mum told me to leave me alone. That we were leaving, he said, "Can I have a kiss?" and touched his lips. I was hiding behind my mum. At this point, she walked out with me, told me my dad, who was outside having a cigarette, what happened, and let's just say we heard a few choice words from inside that shop owner apologising over and over. Creepy man, I hope you never got the chance to creep on another child again. I won't be going back. I was 8, and I was pretty sure my school wasn't going to be the target for any massive terrorist attacks, so my brother and I continued to walk to school every day. This was never a problem. We walked to school every day, and we didn't have total awful teachers for almost my grade school existence. My neighbourhood even had weekly paved trails, including one that led directly to my school, that we always took. I can't remember if it was a recent rain flooding the creek, the besides the trail, or just the climate in general making bugs come out in full force. But that week, my brother and I decided to take a different route and walk along the road. This plan went off without a hitch, until we were walking home one day and a big black SUV with tin windows and giant American flags blocking the view of the black windshield and black seats swallowed us to a crawl, then stopped in front of us and rolled down the window. The woman inside was blonde, maybe middle-aged, and wearing large sunglasses that observed most of her face. "It's not safe for you to walk out here," she called out to us. My brother responded with something to the effect of, "It's fine, we always walk home, we don't live far." That was a mistake. She rolled up her windows and drove a few feet away before screeching her tires to a halt and rapidly reversing back to us, while rolling down her car window, and she yelled, "You spit on my car? I know you did. You spit on my car, you need to get in, right now, so I can drive you home to your parents, and you can apologise in front of them." I looked at my brother and we both shook our heads. "No," I called back. "I didn't spit on your car. Look at the side." And then she yelled again, "Get in my car right now so I can take you home." I turned to my brother Again, without saying a word, we took off running into the woods. My heart was thumping in and out of my chest. I never turned back, particularly after I heard her door open and close. We just kept running. We switched back and forth through the streets and woods, taking several different paths, and we finally ended up circling back around until we were home. We were just sort of shrugged it off, as that was weird. But maybe 15 years later, when I told the story to a friend and her eyes grew wide, she was trying to kidnap you. This haunted me ever since. I live in one of the most unsafe cities in the US, so I tend to never go to the city alone at night, or alone for that matter. I'm also a small 23-year-old girl, which makes it an easy target if I'm alone. I'm frequently raves with my boyfriend, and I always felt safe at them. People may be drugged up or drunk, but they'll hug you, dance with you, and make you feel welcome. This particular night in this past October, we were seeing my favourite DJ of all time for the second time this year. Naturally, we stood up as close to the front as we possibly could, second row throughout the duration of the show. I noticed a girl at the rail kept turning around and looking at me. The way she looked at me was very unsettling, but she felt like she looked like she was hungry, and I looked like Thanksgiving dinner to her. But I didn't pay much attention to her, because I thought maybe she was drunk or something, so I continued to enjoy the show, pretending that I didn't notice her. Around for about 1 AM, it was the middle of my favourite DJ's set, and I was having the time of my life, dancing with my boyfriend and screaming the word to every song. The girl who kept looking at me turned around and leaned towards me like she wanted to tell me something stupidly. I leaned towards her. She said, "I want you to be my friend." Confused, I told her, "We are friends, girl." And she scowled and said, "No, I want to be my friend. I want you to be my friend." I looked at her with a puzzled expression and didn't answer her. Then she turned around towards the stage to watch the show. After a few minutes, the girl turned back around to me and gave me the scariest smile I've ever seen anyone's face, and she grabbed my arm and started pulling me out of the crowd towards the exit. I screamed and turned around to my boyfriend and started flailing my free arm at him. He was very confused as to what was happening, but being the good boyfriend he is, he grabbed me and pulled me out of the girl's grasp and pulled me in for a hug. I turned my head away from his chest to look at the girl as she was standing in the same spot and waving, scowling after what felt like 5 minutes of her standing, staring at me. She left the pub, staring at me the entire time she was walking out. To this day, I still have many questions in my head. Why would she do that? What were her intentions? Did she even have a ticket for the show? I was about 15 at the time. Being young and dumb, I always snuck out at night to meet my friends. This time, though, I was talking to a guy I didn't really know. Never met him in person, so I decided to meet with him at a night at elementary school, maybe 1.5 miles away from my house. I had no car license or anything at the time, so I had to walk. I ended up meeting him for about an hour, got pretty spooked and just ended up telling him I was going to go back home because I was cold. He was very nice, offered me to walk me back home, and I said no because he lived right next to the school and figured I would be fine. This is the creepiest part. I took a different way home because I had been caught by the cops a handful of times and didn't want that to happen again. Let me paint a picture for you. I'm walking in a neighbourhood on a sidewalk, houses on both sides of me, and cars everywhere parked. There was an RV parked almost 10 feet away from me at this point. All of a sudden I hear this very loud music and men being very loud behind me. I look back and there's a little truck coming down the street, music loud as hell, with a driver, a passenger, about 3 men in the back of the truck. looking like high school football players. They drive past catcalling me right when I was getting to the RV, so now they can't see me because of the RV. I then hear screeching for tires, and then I knew I was in trouble. My vision at this point is starting to fade a little because I was scared out of my mind. The truck comes to a stop, and all I can think of doing is crawling underneath the RV. That's all I can do. I see many feet running to where I was standing on the other side of the RV. One guy said, "Where did she go?" My heart is literally about to pop out of my chest. I was holding my breath because I felt like they can hear me. Another guy says, "Everyone shut for a second." Then it's silent for what seems like hours, but was probably a few seconds. Then this guy said, "Get in the truck, she's probably in the next neighborhood." Then they run back to the truck, making random weird noises, and peel out. At this point, I waste no time. I get out from underneath the boil, and as fast as I can, I ran back to my house, inside the window, closed my window and got into bed. I started to cry. It's 4:30 AM. My dad will be up at 5 AM for work. I couldn't sleep at all. I never snuck out again. Thinking about it now, I'm not sure if they were drunk or in their right mind. I honestly don't ever want to find out what would have happened if they caught me. This is a short but personal story of mine. This happened when I was 10 years old on a summer night about 8 PM. While the sun was going down, I was outside the front of my house by myself, riding my skateboard. I was about to head inside and before it got too dark. Then I noticed someone out of place across the street. I'll say an old being within a car with tainted windows. I noticed some sort of light or flash from the driver's windows, almost as if someone was taking a picture. Before I know it, an old lady opened the door of the van and started walking extremely fast towards me. It was happening so fast and I didn't get a good look at her. As soon as she was walking fast towards me, I grabbed my skateboard and ran inside, locking the door. Once I was inside, I ran to my bedroom in front of the house. To my dismay, the van was gone. I never told anyone about this encounter because I always thought I was overthinking it. I never knew the lady's intentions, and honestly, I don't want. Back when I was 13 or 14, I was out one night collecting the subscription fees from my customers. I had a paper route. It was winter because I remember that the sky was dark. I don't remember there being snow on the ground, but I usually done collecting by 6:30. That was purpose because the penguins usually came around at 7 PM. It was cold and I decided that I wanted a hot chocolate for the walk home. There was a convenience store near my paper route. Even now, at night, the area is very busy with crosstown traffic for a dead-end southern Pennsylvania town. Well, I headed on over to the store. I got myself a nice cup of hot chocolate. I paid and I was walking out of the parking lot. A dude in a pickup van with a cap over his head calling me over. I figured for some reason that he recognized my paperboy receipt book and thought I might know the area. 13-year-old logic. I guess he was going to ask me for directions. There was some traffic and there was a lot of traffic around this area at the time. I headed over to the truck and there was 3 guys. The guy was much older than me, but not as old as my dad, and 2 cute girls who I recognized were older than me, but I don't know how much older. Dude looked straight in my eyes and said, "These girls want to party, get in." I'll never forget it. Now I'm 13 or 14. I weighed about 95 pounds, soaking wet with 20 pounds of sand in my pocket. These 2 chicks want to party with me? Sure, I'm a 13-year-old boy, but I'd seen a lot of videos in schools. This crap was just screaming stranger danger. I politely declined and started walking towards my house. Dude sweetened me the pot. Hey, she really thinks you're cute and we have weed and beer. Just get in and let's go. I again declined politely. This whole time the girls had said nothing. I started walking up the road towards my house and then the dude pulled out of the lot and started following me in the truck. A couple hundred feet up the road, a railroad bridge with an entraining wall closed over the road. They were on the other side. I could go through a very small wooded area and into my neighborhood. I went up the embankment and started crossing the tracks. Could see down onto the road, and dude was running out of his truck window and looking at me. Well, I kept walking and saw him pass the first turn into my neighborhood. Good, I was home free. My home was 3 blocks up from the bottom of the hill, and I ran like a mofo. I got to the third block, and what comes over the crest of the hill? A pickup. It wasn't moving very quickly or anything, so I easily made it in front of the porch of our duplex before I passed. I told my dad about it a couple of days later, and he freaked out. For about 1 month, he insisted on driving along my paper route until I was done. The first time a guy in a car pulled up alongside me and asked if I wanted to buy a paper off me, my dad pulled up and yelled at him to move along. I never saw that truck again. To this day, I don't know what that guy wanted. I just don't think he wanted to kidnap me, but obviously at the time, at 13 years old, you don't really expect this stuff. When I was young, I ran away from home. I think I was upset because my parents were giving my brothers more attention than me. I'm the middle child, and while all 3 of us have our issues, I was concerned to be the least challenged, as my older brother has autism and my younger brother has dyslexia, and I always expected to get straight A's or B's. I remember packing my backpack and writing a note that I left on my parents' bed while they were out. I got towards the house. I was far enough away down the side street that he didn't notice me, but a minute or 2 later, I saw him speeding down the same street, heading away from the house now. I walked away thinking. I stopped at a church to sit for a while before I began walking again. A few minutes later, a van pulled up and a man rolled his window down. He said his dog was missing, but that he had the puppies with him. He asked me to come with him to help him look for her. I immediately saw red flags and started running the opposite direction. My dad would sometimes do strange danger drills with my brothers and I, and one of the situations was the 2 of us in the car and tell my brothers that he had candy or something, and he asked them to come with. They screamed no and ran towards the house. I got to the gas station nearby and called my parents from there, and they came to pick me up. I remember seeing on the news later, I think it might have been a few days after, a picture of him. I don't remember what his name was or what he was arrested for, but I remember how it felt like I saw his picture and my blood ran cold. I never ran away from home again after that. But to this day, I still see him staring outside my window.